of any video I've made so far, I have not feared the backlash and the dislikes that today's video very well could receive. Diving into the world of computers is dangerous, as there are so many different opinions and preferences that don't always have to do with performance. With that being said, let's talk about why I prefer to use the ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo to edit on when I'm traveling. There are a ton of different computer options available to videographers and cinematographers today, but not all of the options contain the specifications needed to get the best quality post-production for your footage. If you're editing regular HD footage, 16 gigabytes of RAM or more will be spent to get you where you need. Since we're talking about editing footage for both 4K and 6K models of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, make sure you double and triple that number, sort of, and we'll get to that later on. I would say 32 gigabytes of RAM is the minimum you will need for 4K and 64 for 6K. For the 6K, 64 gigs is probably more just preferable. This is because your storage speed is essential to making sure that both the CPU and RAM can quickly access the data. The lower the RAM, the slower the performance. And while there's other things like read and write speed from your drives, or using a solid state drive or using a hard disk drive, that can affect your performance as well. But that's, again, something else completely. You want to make sure your computer has at least an Intel Core i7, and if you can get one higher than that, you don't hesitate to jump on that. There are specific CPUs you should be looking for video editing in general. That can apply for both the 6K and the 4K. When it comes to your graphic needs, if you're using the 6K, then you probably want at least the NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060. Minimum for the GPU. If you're using 4K, then RTX 2060 will definitely be sufficient for your needs. When it comes to your storage, a minimum of 256 gigabytes is needed, though when you add on Adobe Premiere, or even if you're not using the Adobe Suite to edit, it still is costly to your space. I mean, you pretty much eat up your entire 256 gigabytes by just installing Adobe Premiere. Or all the Adobe assets on it. So honestly, I would say 500, but even 500 to me is the minimum. I would go for a terabyte. Now, before I get ripped for saying what the minimum requirements are to edit the Pocket's 4K or 6K footage, I will add a little disclaimer here. This is more of my minimum requirements for editing, since I have massive projects I work with a lot going on in them, sound effects, graphics, like heavy editing. Blackmagic's RAW format that they have developed actually makes it easier on your computer to edit their files versus other cameras. My computers usually struggle more with editing GoPro and Sony a7 III files in reality than they do with 4K or 6K footage from the Pocket cameras, and that's really due to how well Blackmagic has designed their codecs. Props to them. As stated before, my personal preference for a laptop computer for editing and post-production while on the road is the ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo. Make sure that when you're looking up this information for yourselves that you're looking up the Pro version, not the standard ASUS Zenbook Duo, as that one is woefully insufficient for your needs. The Zenbook Pro Duo comes with the most of the necessary requirements: a terabyte of solid-state drive storage, 32 gigabytes of RAM, and an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2060 GPU, and an Intel Core i9. It comes with a 15.6-inch 4K Ultra display that provides a very, very good color reference, in my opinion, and it has a Thunderbolt port, an HDMI output, and two 3.0 Type-A ports. Oh, and how did I forget to mention this part? It has a second screen built into the keyboard, which to me is the main attraction for this laptop. Now, obviously, the ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo is not perfect, but really tell me what computer is 100% perfect. The keypad is honestly probably one of the worst I've ever used, and really does better when you're sitting somewhere than on your lap. Also, the touchpad, while having a super cool number pad function, tends to just feel awkward with its placement. I highly recommend using a mouse with this laptop. There have also been mentions of the built-in speakers of the computer being a con, as the sound output is a bit lackluster. And I just use headphones for it when I'm editing anyways, so that's not really of a problem for me. Whether or not this is a con for you really depends on whether you plan to use the built-in speakers or will be attaching, again, like I said, external monitors or headphones. One of the biggest cons is the battery life. Between the OLED display, the big GPU, and the touchpad, you can be lucky if you get 4 hours out of one charge. And 4 hours is even pushing it in my opinion. Beyond these issues, most of which are fixable or at least have some sort of workaround, this computer's cons for what it does is minimal. They're there, but you can live with some of these cons. Do your research for yourself to see what works for your workflow, what exactly you need, and what's recommended online. So with this high price tag and a seemingly long list of cons, why do I use this laptop? I've tried over the years to downsize to lighter laptops, but have always found them lacking, usually not having the power needed to work remotely on some of my more intensive projects. And before anyone tries to sell me on a MacBook, it just doesn't fit into my workflow or specific needs in general. And please, I really don't want to get into a Mac versus PC war. I have strong opinions, but again, this is not really the video to bring those up. The ASUS Zenbook Pro Duo really has just worked out for me. I edit with multiple screens generally and find it takes a lot longer to edit when I don't have those additional screens. Having a laptop that can give me extra real estate to edit on while I'm out traveling is really a game changer for me. When you're out traveling and have to work on projects late at night after a long day of filming or working, the last thing you really want is to fight with a one-screen laptop that also can't render or even allow you to preview your intensive project. Is it heavy? Yes. Does the battery life suck? Absolutely. Is the keyboard garbage? Yeah. But when on a tight deadline for a video project when traveling, I don't cringe or get worried about the thought of having to use it for video editing because I know I'm getting close to the same performance I am on my workstation at home. So what do you think? If you have any personal experience or insight with this computer, feel free to leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section below. And as always, feel free to tell me why you think I'm wrong. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe to our channel below and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all of our videos. Until next time, this is John Owens with Voyager.